into the science field. So that's why I had to renew my bachelor's and master's diplomas here. But in 2019, to renew my diplomas, I had to take statistics courses, the series of the statistics courses in University of Washington. And my statistics professor advised me, since you have a very good reason, like a problem solving or critical thinking skills, why don't you pursue your career in data science? And it was the first time me hearing about the data science, and it took a good amount of time from me to understand what the field looks like, what it takes to become a data scientist or data analyst, what knowledge, what techniques I have to learn. So this is just a brief introduction. And since 2020, I'm working as a data analyst in Capgemini, which is a bigger, I would say, vendor companies for the Microsoft. And mainly what we do, we work for around 56 countries in the world with more than 300,000 people. And we sell the software products. And my main job is actually doing a cost optimization analysis for the Microsoft products.
Okay, thank you very much, Gulnar.
Sure.
Once again, I kindly ask everybody to turn their cameras if they have this opportunity. If not, no issue. So, um, before asking the collected question, just I kindly ask you to give a brief definition of data analyst, data scientist, and data engineer. I hope it will be useful. Just brief.
Sure.
Okay.
To be very honest, I love categorizing things. If I categorize what the certain tools, techniques, and knowledge directly related to the data analysis and what are directly related to the data science, I would start with the like tools, for example. The data analyst tools are greatly different from the data science tool because data analysts mainly look for historical data and analyze to answer impactful questions, right? But data science is more related to the future, more related to the predictive analysis process. They both do the analysis process, but one is more related to the historical analysis and the other is more related to the future analysis. And we kind of gain a impactful results from our data science projects. Data engineering is more kind of a more related to the programming. I would say it's another like a way of calling the computer science or programming science. The data engineers are more kind of related to build the models or build some tools that businesses can use on their daily uses. I myself is not very related to the data engineer. I find myself in between data analysis and data science. And when it comes to the education wise, data and being a data analyst might require you to learn some certain statistical knowledge, but data science requires more advanced statistical knowledge, for example. Or without any programming skills, you can still become a data analyst, but without the programming skills, it's so hard to become or to call yourself as a data scientist. So they definitely have some overlapping, but some kind of very different aspects.
Okay, actually, I have placed two questions. The
Mm-hmm.
first one is, what steps did you take to become a data analyst? This is the first question. The second question is, can you share a personal experience or specific project where you encountered a significant data-related challenge, and what lessons did you learn from overcoming it? So you can
Yes.
answer. Yeah.
Uh, Definitely. So the most important step I would say is learning about database knowledge. I wish I knew how database knowledge is important for becoming a data analyst at the beginning, but since we work with the data and data comes from database, we really need to understand um, how relationships are in the database is built, how we don't have to be like a database administrator, or we don't have to be um, database engineers, but we need to understand the relationships in the database in order to write in effective SQL queries, right? The second step is knowledge and statistics. Like I like always to say that the data science is another name of the data, the statistics. Analyzing data is just the helping by the tools to apply a statistical laws or regulations, because any data set um, holds a statistical insight, and our job as a data analyst to find it out, right? The third one is a technical skills. Like everyone, I started with Excel, but though Excel is always um, an important tool for many data related purposes, including like cleaning data, applying statistical functions, visualizations. But um, we always add more tool, like for example, Power BI, because Power BI is more capable than Excel when it comes to the large data sets, right? Or when it comes to the advanced visualizing tools. And then the fourth one, actually, I can combine two skills here. Is I feel like I developed more. They are most important ones are communication skills and continuous learning skills. I still find some people, they think like if you work as a data analyst and there is not too much talking involved, it's just a very technical work, but it's completely wrong. I cannot express like how many meetings do we have during the day. We talk to the stakeholders, we talk to the team members, and we collaborate our project, our findings, our thoughts. And it requires such a strong soft skills, such a strong communication skills, like a listening skills or asking question skills or tackling the problems together. So these two, like a continuous learning during the process, and also communication skills are the main set of the skills that I developed that took me to the data analyst role. The second question, could you please remind me the second one as well? I kind of forgot. You muted yourself, Ilgarbe.
Sorry. It was about sharing a personal experience or specific project where you encountered a significant
Encounter
data-related
this.
challenge. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yes. Um, as every data analyst role, we encounter challenges daily, and being a data analyst is all about how we solve these challenges, of course. I will definitely mention a few challenges, but it really depends on the industry. It really depends on the which business you work for and which data set you work for. So these challenges daily changes, sometimes even hourly changes. The number one challenge for us is missing data. I can recall. Um, Regardless which domain you work with, there always will be the missing data challenge, and it is coming from a variety of reasons. Sometimes, specifically if we work like as a demographic data, there are so many missing data because some customers or some people, they don't choose to provide a certain details or certain answers, and we have a large amount of missing data. And how we tackle it depends from project to project, but the main rule is applying some imputation methods. For example, if data is a numerical data, we apply mean imputation or average imputation. But if the data is, for example, if it's categorical data, then we apply mode imputation. And while doing this imputation methods, we always consider bias, because if you add something from yourself into the data set, there is always a chance to have a bias. And we always discuss to each other, like we evaluate whether if this imputation method might disproportionately impact a certain product groups or certain demographic groups, etc. And we always adjust this into our data accordingly. And we in order to like avoid from this bias or to insert the missing data, to fix the missing data, we always communicate closely and clearly with the stakeholders. We always let them know how we deal with their missing data. If they can fix the missing data, if they can provide more insightful ideas about their data set, then we definitely try to use it. If not, then we actually offer our methods to them, how we can solve this missing data challenge. The second challenge is when we complete the project, it takes a good amount of time now to translate our technical work to the way of understanding that business stakeholders can understand, because 99% of the time they are coming from non-technical data background or any technical background, and we find our way to express our findings to them. We adapt our way of speaking to their way of understanding. It might sound just a process of communication, but it takes a reasonable time to translate our technical findings into just a easy way of speaking. Yeah.
And in your role as a data analyst,
Mm-hmm.
what tools and technologies do you find most valuable for efficient and accurate data analysis?
Yeah. Since my company actually works for Microsoft, we mainly use Microsoft products. Um, if I say like a 99% of the time we use Excel, probably lots of people will say like it's too easy to use, but Excel has such a capabilities. It has everything, like starting from cleaning data to build the dashboards or interactive dashboards even. We only use Power BI when the data set is too large, or some companies might specifically require their dashboards or their reports on the Power BI. Then we use Power BI. SQL, of course, like SQL is like we definitely use it in our daily life in order to um, retrieve like important data from the database. Like since the how to say, like the cost optimization analysis is always involves like Amazon AWS products or Google products, we use internal calculators as well in order to compare the price of these products. And they're not actually too technical tools, they're very straightforward tools, but mainly as an analytic tool, like we use Excel. But on my own projects, actually, I use Python. And I definitely highly recommend to every data analyst to try to learn its capabilities, specifically the libraries of the Python, because I recently see the trend that almost every data analyst job is requiring Python greatly.
Before asking the questions that we got from our registered
Yes.
attendees, I would like to ask own personal question.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's said that you can become data analyst just, for example, knowing our language or Python or Power BI, Tableau, so on and so forth. So here I mean that one can become data analyst just learning only one tool. How do you find it? I mean, do you agree with this idea or not?
Um,
Enough to
m-
become data analyst just knowing Power BI?
from my own personal experience, I used to I was a person like to jump from tool to the tool to try to learn all the tools that on the job description people put there, right? If you search for any job description, you will definitely find 4 or 5 tools that companies wants you to know. But if you personally reach out to these companies, they will probably let you know that though they put like a 4 or 5 tools there, they mainly use two of them. My job, for example, I remember on the job description, there were like a Python recommended, SQL in advanced level, and Power BI in advanced level. But within like the last 3 years, I have used maybe 5 or 6 times the Power BI whenever, as I said, the Excel is not as sufficient, right? So learning one tool and mastering one tool is more important than knowing like a 4 or 5 tools in a low level, right? So knowing Excel will definitely give you more capabilities if you wanted to switch in the future for the Power BI, because they both run on the same engine. They have lots of similarities, but of course, Power BI has more advancements, right? So I totally agree with that idea. that with one tool, but with a strong statistical knowledge, with a strong reasonable, like a problem solving skills, critical thinking skills, you can become a very competitive data analyst. But will it be enough for your future career? Of course not. It will not. You will definitely might need to add some more technical tools, because from company to company, the use of the tool changes a lot. Some companies prefer like a one tool, some companies prefer another tool. So in order to stay on the market, you will definitely need to more.
Before asking the next question, taking an opportunity, I would like to welcome Pedro Medina, whom I know. I know that he uses Power Platform products in his company, Haystack. So let me ask, yeah, welcome, Pedro.
Thank you. Thank you, Olga.
Okay. I would like to add one thing, Gulnar Hanım.
Sure.
A few days ago, I was meeting with my friend who has his company, just who is dealing with training. He told me that it's better to learn even one programming language like JavaScript. If you know JavaScript, you can do it yourself, just writing code. And not he, but also other people who are dealing with data analysis. They also say that it's better to know one programming language, and it will be, knowing programming language will always help you to write the necessary codes and to do the necessary, say, visualization, so on and so forth. It's just idea I just wanted to share with you. So I would like to go on with the next question. Um, so it says that, could you provide examples of common mistakes that you have observed in the field of data analysis, and what advice would you give to others to avoid these pitfalls?
Yeah, great question. I think I'm lucky enough to work with a team that almost in each project, or we call case actually our projects, we discuss all the possible mistakes that we could make, and we learn from each other how to avoid them. There are several mistakes that I mentioned, which we regularly discuss them. And this regularity is actually getting dense because we keep working with a similar projects, similar products, and then these mistakes actually is becoming a very potential mistakes after some time. For example, ignoring data quality issues. So when we overlook data quality issues such as missing values, outliers, or inconsistencies in the data set, it's a big issue. And how we avoid, we prioritize data cleaning and pre-processing. I would say in each project, it's very common that we spend almost 80% of our time to fix that issue if it's arise. Like for example, we prepare our data set to spending 80% of our time, and then another 20% of the time goes like in a real analysis process. Throughout, we examine the data set for anomalies, and we address them before to conduct any analysis. And another issue, another mistake, like a potential mistake, is overlooking exploratory data analysis process. If we neglect the exploratory phase of the data analysis, it actually leads to shallow understanding of the data and potentially missing value insights, right? So the way we avoid them in our daily projects is we invest our time to build some descriptive statistical models, first to get some insights for ourselves, and then we tackle the real analysis process, because exploratory data analysis gives a very good insights about the structure of the data, the roles of the outliers, how we are going to fix them. And another mistake is if we are not considering bias and fairness. It is honestly the hard one for us to tackle each time, because no matter how you think, the other person will always find the bias in your way of thought, right? If we fail to assess the address of biases in the data or model or analysis, it leads always like a very unfair outcomes, right? And the way we avoid is actually we collaborate our thoughts, we share our thoughts to each other, and we always be so open to each other to tell how the bias can conduct or how bias can involve to someone's thought. And sharing all these thought process with the stakeholder within this 80% of the time actually gives us more opportunities to understand their way of the thinking, because at the end of the case, at the end of the project, the stakeholders are going to be the users of the project, right? So their thoughts is always very meaningful and very important for us. And the other one is actually coming at the end of the project when we actually submit our cases. It's failing to properly communicate and ignoring domain knowledge. We can easily fail to communicate findings effectively to a non-technical people. And the way to avoid it is always being very open-minded, to be open any kind of question, to ask a certain questions if they really understand what we have done with their data and how better we can do for the future cases.
Thank you, Gulnar.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you approach the balance between data accuracy and the need for quick decision making in a fast-paced business environment?
Yeah. Yes, fast paced business environment. It's the exactly what we are actually working with, because the software industry is, I would say, the more challenging to work for, because the products and their capabilities change every day, I would say. And it's hard to find that balance, but it comes with experience. And after working in that fast-paced business environment in a while, as a data analyst, we gain some skills that answer these challenges. It always starts with understanding the context, the decision context, and we learn how to consider the nature of the decision and its impact on the business. Some decisions may require a high level of accuracy. Some decisions may require a low level of accuracy, and we balance our time in between them. So if there is a high level of accuracy is the requirement, then we spend more time, and we understand what is the percentage of this accuracy, for example. And it helps us to balance our time. And before to start any project, we define decision-making timelines also. Some like projects requires very short deadline, and some requires some long deadline. Like I said, it really depends on the daily situations, and we balance they with the timelines. And then we also prioritize the critical data, like what are the key data points that are significantly influence our decision, and then we focus on collecting, validating, and fixing these critical data elements to ensure the accuracy in areas that matter the most for the business users. And there are situations where obtaining accurate data is time consuming. Then we consider using a proxy or approximate data that can provide the reasonable estimate. For example, if this month data is not available yet, then we gain our average, thoughts from the last month, for example, usage as well. And then we leverage real-time analytics, which means when we implement real-time analytics to monitoring systems to access the most current data, we try to access to the most current data. And this also allows us as a decision makers to have up to minute information specifically for the dynamic environment, because at least like a 6 or 7 out of 10 projects we build like on time or live projects or live dashboards. And for that, we always wanted to feed our model with the very up-to-date data sets, right? Um, Establishing like data quality standards is another way how we keep that balance on the stage. We set a clear data quality standards, and if the data comes from some resources that are not qualified for these like for this, how to say, standards, then we actually give some more time to the stakeholders to work with their data and then provide us more like a more workable data. So as I said, like it really comes with the experience. It really changed from project to the project, but the main way is actually applying the collaboration between us as a team members and between stakeholders and us. Like with a collaboration setup, we balance this process.
Thank you. And
Yeah.
what are the key skills or qualities you believe are essential for a successful career in data analysis based on your own professional journey?
Like which skills and qualities?
Yeah.
I would definitely start with the analytical skills, which means like how good you are at asking questions. Like I'm not talking about like a tackling with the problem yet, but asking the questions. And it helps. This skill is actually helps like to analyze and interpret complex data sets. It helps like to identify the patterns and draw meaningful conclusions. This is a fundamental skill. Some people can call this like a problem solving or critical thinking, but the overall it goes as like analytical skills. The statistical knowledge is strong foundation in statistics is a key, and I believe it allows everybody to choose appropriate analytical methods. Unfortunately, these days we've seen a lot of people tend to learn more tools rather than learning statistical, approaches, which is I definitely consider as a wrong process because tools are just the tools, but knowing how, when, and why to use them is only possible if you really understand the statistical methods or how to approach to the assumptions or how to derive reliable insights from a data. As I said, like any data set holds a statistical law or statistical insight, but tool is only for to use them. Um, the programming skills also, as I said, it improves someone's problem-solving skills as well, because programming is not only about like just writing a code, but it's a way of thinking. That's why even if you're not using the programming in your current job, like I don't, but I still love to learn to improve my way of thinking skills, right? And then the most important skill is a data wrangling process. Um, it takes more than 80% of my time, honestly, every day's job. The data wrangling includes like a dealing with the missing values and outliers and how to transform the data into usable format. It's just a massaging of the data, right? Without that, it's impossible to apply any model or any visual into the model. And data visualization, another important skill, because it's the way of us talking to the stakeholders. And the best way for me is not to use very complex visuals when you talk to the data, like the stakeholders. Within the team, we use advanced level of the visuals, but when we talk to the business users or to the business owners, we always tend to use at only like a two or three uh, key indicators or parameters in our visuals, because it is helping them, it helps them to understand much better the connection between these parameters. If there are more parameters involved, they definitely confuse, and choosing a very basic visuals is always the key. And the last one is a domain knowledge. This was the hardest one for me to improve myself, because coming from non-business or any non-finance background, I had a hard time to, improve this, like understanding the business cases, understanding how business works, how people handle their like a cost or their profits, and what the key parameters that they are looking for. when they actually send us their projects, right? But while working some time, it actually repeats each time, and then you gather some insightful information about the business, and you develop this skill. So if I just combine all of them, definitely the visualization skills, domain knowledge skills, technical skills, and the statistical skills are the most important ones that I can recall.
That's great. And how do you stay updated on the latest trends and advancements in the field of data analysis? And how important do you think continuous learning is for a data professional?
Yes. Um, Working in a company actually helps greatly because daily we learn about advancements of new technologies and how we might implement them. And besides daily experience, I continuously attend tech meetings, career meetings. I enroll a low or medium cost courses. I still have a lot of subscriptions that I really spend more time to learn more, not tools, but more advancements of these tools. For example, if you definitely familiar with the Power BI, how monthly updates they bring into the Power BI products. And my biggest intake or update comes from LinkedIn. I sincerely appreciate all the people that I follow on the LinkedIn because I follow the folks and I learn them greatly. Uh, Without continuous learning, it's impossible to stay in the field, honestly, because data analytics and data science is changing every single day, and lots of advancements and lots of new technologies are coming into play. But it is not I'm not saying that you have to learn everything that happening every day. It's impossible, but focusing on your certain tool and your the areas that you are hoping or trying to improve yourself. There are so many like a LinkedIn learning how to say portals or folks on the LinkedIn that you can
Platform.
stay up to date by following them.
Yeah, by the way, I would like to
Hmm.
add that by times Microsoft organizes some programs. For
Hmm.
example, recently it started to launch
Hmm.
Power Up program.
Hmm.
It's already ninth cohort where one can learn Power Platform products. So it's really good opportunity. And at the end of this program,
Hmm.
Microsoft provides exam voucher, and you can take the exam just for certification purpose. Yeah, my next question is about ethical use of data. So, considering increasing importance of ethical considerations in data analysis, what steps do you take to ensure that your uh, analyses are ethically sound?
um to be honest, since we only deal with a software products, we don't need to, at least my team never need to worry about the ethical considerations. um so I I definitely understand that if you work with the demographic data or healthcare data or pharmaceutical data, there might be a lot of ethical considerations, but my team, I never involve any ethical either issue or the process that we have to consider the ethical considerations. So I might not have a best answer for that question, unfortunately.
Uh, yeah, sorry for interrupting you, but it's very important point. For example,
Yes,
we make some projects on behalf of companies in different countries.
yes,
All the clients, customers are interested in your previous projects. They want to see, even they ask you to share, for example, all the
yeah.
dashboards that you have prepared in Power BI,
Mm-hmm.
and even as viewer, they just want to, to have a look to
Yes.
the context of your work. So
Yes, to see how you
actually,
do
it's
your
for
projects.
yeah,
Yeah, how,
yeah.
how capable of you doing your project. It's a great way, actually, I mean, great time to express this one. So with my team, within a last 3 years, we've done so many projects, like either on the Power BI or on an Excel, like a very interactive dashboards or etc. But when I actually apply for a job out, definitely like HR recruiters or the hiring managers, when they ask like my previous projects, I honestly never ever use my work projects, even if the dashboard is not giving a too many information to them, I never present it. For that, I just built my own projects from using the Kaggle. I get the data set from the Kaggle. I have a projects on, like I built on Excel and Power BI, and I have some like a 2 or 3 completed projects on Python. I just present them. I don't even know how compelling they are compared to my work projects, because my work projects actually are more insightful, more advanced. But I still never ever use my work projects to present for the HR recruiters. I think it's another ethical consideration, because um, every company has their strict rules and policies for the data sets
Yeah.
that they use.
Let's go on with simple questions. I didn't find the necessary words in English. Sorry. Okay. What advice do you have for someone who is transitioning into a career in data analysis, especially if they are coming from a different background? Actually, we have talked about it, but briefly, what would you add?
Yes, definitely. I think it's the main manner of the today's meeting. I would like to emphasize that the transitioning is not easy. To me, like 3 years ago, when I first time saw like within 6 months you can be data analyst, and I was so hopeful that it's so true, but unfortunately, soon you realize that it's not so true. Within 6 months, you just understand what the data analytics looks like, what it takes from you, how many times you need to devote. So just being aware of that fact that the transitioning is not easy might help a lot, because um, it is important to know that at the beginning, because if someone wants to transition and thinks that it will take 6 months or a year, and after a year if they're not on the place that they were hoping to be, it will bring a lot of discouragement to someone. So just be patient, and if possible, find a good mentor at the beginning. If finding a good mentor is not possible, just use some AI tools or use Google to find this like a very solid pathway for yourself. The second important one is finding your niche at the beginning. It is such an important thing to know as a beginner data analyst. What I mean by saying finding your niche, to try to find out by yourself in which field in the future you want to work most. Is it a healthcare? Is it a business? Is it a educational, for example, system, or is it like a any other field is a niche, right? Why? Because it gives a lot of time for you to prepare yourself better for learning that domain knowledge. So, for example, after 3 years, I realized that I want to work with a genomics field so bad, like either like a pharmaceutical field, which means the how some drugs or medicines actually affects depending on the people's like a DNA structure. It's a one field like in a genomics. But if I knew that like 3 years ago, I would spend more time to learn domain knowledge as a genetics or genomics, right? But now I just started. So finding your niche is another importance. Um, the last one, I would say, improve your communication skills on the LinkedIn. It doesn't mean like how many followers you have on the LinkedIn. It literally means how many people in the industry you talked, you conduct and discussed about your path, or about your finding, about your challenges. Because at the end, these people, I know that everybody's busy and not everyone that you are messaging will answer you back, but at least 2 or 3 out of 100 people that you write it, private messages, they will turn out to you and they will answer your questions. I myself honestly used LinkedIn greatly to um, avoiding like being a resource addictive person. I use LinkedIn greatly to being avoid to jump from tool to the tool, right? To get overwhelmed, because using LinkedIn also helps you to see the other people pass through the same way like you do, and you're not alone on this path. So it is such a strong tool to use to improve your communication and soft skills as well.
Yeah. And last four questions.
Hmm.
Can you share examples of successful data-driven initiatives at Capgemini, and what role did effective communication play in their success?
Um, like, is it particularly in Capgemini or like related to how to say any business analytics role?
Yeah, any business, but actually you are working at Capgemini, would be great
Yes, yes,
to have some this kind of examples. Yeah.
agree. So definitely like a transparent data governance is definitely what we do in our everyday work. Transparent data governance means like a clear communication between teams and stakeholders about data governance practice. So companies or businesses know how their data is handling. It's such an important uh, key for success. It builds a trust between us. And then the clearing objective and KPIs might always be under the consideration for us. And also cross-functional collaboration, which means a tight collaboration among different departments. We also mainly focus a measurable impact, which means any profit related metrics is very important for us. We include like revenue growth, enhanced customer satisfaction, cost savings. All of these are our like focus areas, and we value ethical considerations, as I said earlier. Privacy and fairness of using the data for the companies. Like I said, we work with Amazon products, we work with Google products, and we work with Microsoft products, which are the main competitor if you look at in that context, right? But ethical use of the data from each company is our key to success. As I said, like it builds a trust between stakeholders and us.
Uh, uh, I hope we have time for next. Oh yeah, Shreya
Yes,
Patil wants to ask question. Yes, Shreya, please ask a question.
yes,
Uh, Thanks, Gulnar. Thanks for your time today. So
sure,
I have a couple of questions for you. So my
sure.
first question is that I looking a job for a data analyst, and I have
Mhm,
a very patient to become a data analyst. So now I am in my learning zone, but
mhm,
I'm a little bit confused. Like, how can I make sure my learning path is good? Like nowadays, I'm learning Excel, and
mhm.
you say like you told like learning a statistic. It's very important as a data analyst. So
Yes,
how can I make sure I'm in good way? Like Excel, Power BI, Python, and advanced Excel. And one thing is SQL. So how
yes,
can we manage these tools, and how can we build a project as well?
sure. You said like you are in your learning zone, but I would say that you will always be on your learning zone. You will never
Yeah.
leave that zone, regardless where you work in the future. And the best way to know if I am on the right path is keep applying for the jobs and landing the interviews. The worst the worst thing for me, actually, from my experience, I was always feeling that I am not ready for yet, because reading the job description is always so overwhelming, so confusing, and you feel like they ask too much. But apply for the jobs and land for the interview is the best way to measure your knowledge. There is no test, there is no any other way actually to measure yourself. But in the interview, you will definitely find out. If you could definitely say that, okay, I apply for the jobs, but I don't land for the interviews. I totally understand that. because it's such a competitive field. And if you look at the LinkedIn right after the job, post, there are more than 300, 400 people that are applying. The other way is actually being on the right path, is building a project. And you said, how can I build a projects? On the YouTube, on the LinkedIn Learning, there are guided projects, like classes or lessons. I would start with them first, because build your own project by yourself is hard at the beginning. But if you follow a few, or like a 5 or 6, for example, guided projects that people build their project, and then you just follow them, then you will be capable to build your own project as well, because this is how I started. It's definitely hard for me to understand, like, how am I going to start my project? Do I just create the questions and find a data set to build a project, or I find a data set and then create the questions? And I realized that it's actually both. It depending on the situation. Sometimes data comes from to you as a ready to build a project, and it's up to you to create the curious questions and to build your project. But sometimes you yourself must create your own questions and find your data set that might answer your questions. So try to do in both cases, and build not too many projects though, just to build a few projects. And you said, like, you're learning Excel and Power BI. I would definitely state at this point that unless you're not mastering like a advanced Excel, like a VBA and macros, for example, or some interactive dashboard skills, do not switch to the Power BI, because Excel is a ground foundation for almost so many visualization tools as well.
Yeah, thank you. And
Of course.
when we need to learn statistic,
At the very beginning. At the
beginning.
very beginning, yes. Without statistic, like, okay, you know this, Excel, like what you are going to do with Excel, right? When you need to find the outlier, when you need to find the mean, when you need to find or apply, like, let's say outside of Excel, you wanted to do something on the Python, and you wanted to build a machine learning project, right? Any project that applies a machine learning. And the statistics gives you the direction or the path or the way of thinking, and then tool comes into play. You apply tools to apply to understand the data set.
Thank you so much for your answer.
Sure. Thank you for your questions.
Yeah, there are two questions. I would like to ask this question, and I'm really very interested in your answers. So, question, it says that what role do you think storytelling plays in presenting data insights to non-technical stakeholders? And do you have any tips for effective data storytelling?
Like, yes, definitely. I actually mentioned a little bit before, that the visuals actually are such a great and important tool for the storytelling process. And as a company, as a team, our approach always is to use less parameters on each visual. So we do not combine all the findings into one visual when we talk to the stakeholders. This is the first one. Actually, it starts with the knowing your audience, to understand much better what they know and what they're looking for, and how we are going to present our findings to them. Then we start with a clear message, and then we concise message or takeaway, and we need to know how to clearly communicate the main point that I want my audience to understand from the data. And we always try to create a narrative arc, which means structure my story with the beginning, middle section, and the end section. We introduce the context, and then we present the data insight, and then we conclude the implications or recommended actions. It always must end with the recommended actions. It's very similar to 3-question sequence, like what we are looking for, how we are looking for, and what is our outcome. So if we can answer these 3 questions, it is actually always enough for any type of stakeholder, regardless of their knowledge in the data case. During that process, we mainly focus on the why question, because it is the most common question that we get from others. All the time we focus on the why question. It helps to the stakeholders to understand the significance of the insights and how these insights are aligned with organizational goals or challenges. And we honestly tend to use a lot of real life cases or anecdotes to illustrate the key points. That's why I love to read a lot, like a LinkedIn post, other people post, like to see how they are communicate with their stakeholders, how they are presenting their findings to their stakeholders. And because um, during that conversation, we always aware that the great possibility of our audience is not technical, and they don't even not coming from any analytical background. And it's a very natural process, very natural thing to see that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, if given the chance to be born again, would you still opt for a career as a data analyst?
Yes, definitely, definitely. But in a genomic field, not in a software industry, honestly, because I feel
Okay.
myself more safe in more like a biological industries, like I would say pharmaceutical industries or ecological or any biology related industries, or even healthcare industries as well, but not in the software.
And our last question, what strategies can one employ to discover remote job possibilities as a data analyst?
Yes. Again, we would start with the LinkedIn. And like I said, it is not the number of the followers, but it is how you use LinkedIn very efficiently. How many recruiters are you reaching out, and how you interact with them. And job application process for the remote or non-remote is very complex nowadays. It's very challenging, and everybody's definitely aware of that. My best approach is to understand that LinkedIn job postings most of the time are outdated. So what does that mean? Sometimes companies post on the LinkedIn their job, and they do not update once they hire somebody. What is the best way to overcome this issue is just going to the website of the company and to their careers page to see if the job is exist or not, then to apply there. The next step after applying a job is to reaching out anyone in the company or hiring manager to the company and try to interact with them, try to ask questions. It's not like going to them directly and saying that, hey, I applied and I'm looking forward to hear you back. No, not at all. But asking the questions related to the company culture, or asking the questions about the job description, because as I said, sometimes they put a lot of tools or techniques on the job description, very very complex to understand. It's so hard to understand. If you really have a questions related to the job descriptions, required skills or educational background, then go to them and ask a questions. I find most of the time they answer the questions, and they definitely ask to send the resume to them directly instead of submitting the resume on the career website. So there are so many applicants, and we must to find a way to stand out. And there are so many ways to stand out. I just count a few of them. There will be definitely more. Um, and it's our way of critical thinking again, like how can I stand out from the crowd of the applications, crowd of the applicants. And the another most important one is um, adapting our resumes into the job descriptions. If we have only one resume and we apply every job with using that resume, it is not going to work, unfortunately. How we can adapt, we just take a main key points from the job description and apply them into our resume. I'm not saying that to put any skill that you are not comfortable with to your resume. It is not that. But like, for example, just don't put simply like an Excel on your resume. Imply like what type of works you have done with the Excel, which advancements you use. Like Excel is too large to mention, right? It's too broad to mention. Just try to be very specific, and your main goal must be focused to the keys on the job description.
Great. And I think there are also other points that we should consider. So thank you very much, Gulnar.
Sure.
With your permission, I'm just going to end the live streaming on YouTube. And but we can go on. If I mean, if there is any question, you can ask your questions. So I have already asked all the questions that I gathered from our registered attendees.
Yeah.
So